my role here is just to moderate and ask these gentlemen here questions. I think one of the first questions that came up, do we have a feed from our Facebook or Twitter questions? Okay. What advice could you give to the potential participants of the, oops, what happened to that one? Okay. What advice could you give to the potential participants of the challenge? And maybe we can ask Dean Rudy, but prior to answering that question, perhaps Dean Rudy, if you could bear with us and just tell us a little bit about the vision behind Accent, because I understand you have been the person behind the vision of Accent.
Well, I think I grew up in an era of liberation theology, where at the time big business was the enemy. It was the enemy, and social development looked at big business as being on totally the opposite end of the spectrum. Today, we're fortunate to have seen change in the way people look at social development, and that the best way to achieve social development is precisely by using tools of business for social development. And big business is no longer the enemy, it's a partner. And if you want to make change, you must partner with business and use the tools of business. So, from a situation where the business school in Ateneo was considered the enemy of people who were interested in social development, today the business school is one of the primary forces in Ateneo, pushing social development using the tools of business. And it was logical for us, with our entrepreneurial focus, to move heavily into social entrepreneurship so that we teach our students not just the tools of business, but how to use the tools of business to make social change. It's very much in line with the vision, mission of the university, of course.
So, what advice would you give to potential participants of the challenge?
I'd encourage potential participants of the challenge to do two things. Number one, not think of social enterprise as only addressing the problem of livelihood. A lot of people think social enterprise is livelihood, but social enterprise is also addressing social problems beyond just livelihood. It's also access to off-grid energy, it's access to clean water, access to financing, access to affordable education, access to affordable housing. There's so many social problems we can address through social entrepreneur, and a lot of our social entrepreneurs, a lot of young people still think of social entrepreneur as just livelihood, giving employment to poor people, and it can be much more than that. The second problem I see with young social entrepreneurs now, a lot of young people want to make a difference but don't know how. So they're looking for models. Reese Fernandez is here, and Mark Ruiz, the people behind Rags to Riches. My goodness, after Rags to Riches got all the publicity, you should see the amount of Rags to Riches clothes that were presented to us for social event. No? So Rags to Riches made bags out of rags. So we got proposals to make bags out of water hyacinth. We got proposals to make bags out of newspapers, proposals to make bags out of tarpaulins, and so on and so forth. So people are looking for models, and while existing social enterprises in the Philippines make excellent models, I would encourage participants in the challenge to look outside the Philippines. India and Africa, for instance, are way ahead of the Philippines in social enterprise. We can look at those. A lot of information about social enterprises all over the world, online. Take a look at those, see what has worked overseas, and see how we can apply those here. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I like that part actually about looking externally. And as a matter of fact, for this BPI Sinag, one of the things that one of our advisors, Phil Aldo, who's a Harvard Business graduate and in charge, and now doing a lot of work on venture philanthropy and the whole social entrepreneurship platform, basically was saying, Faye, go international, go to at least Southeast Asia. So I think a lot of thinking can happen when you are in a more diverse environment, so you can see what's going on. Right? Rob, do you want to add to that? on the advice that you can give to, and then you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what your business and how you actually got into it. Again, as a role model, because people are looking for pegs or for, yeah,
Role models
templates,
such
yeah.
a pressure. But yeah, I guess advice would be, I guess just throw your ideas out there. Because ideas are the most powerful. It's the most powerful thing that you can have. But bringing an idea to conceptualization, to actualization is where the challenges and the good things come. So I think is to challenge your ideas, to get feedback from many people, and basically take things with an open mind, because business is about evolution, innovation, and most important, also survival. So where I started, I actually our main business now is actually born out of a social enterprise competition. It was a change maker competition, the British Council. So it was a concept wherein we wanted to address the issue of climate change. So it was actually a market-driven reforestation initiative. So heavily influenced by my wife, but then girlfriend, who was such a big environmental activist. So I thought, what could I do in my own part? So we basically saw the Philippines as a resource-rich country who had actually depleted a lot of its resources. So in thinking about the Philippines as a whole, in trying to bring us to an economy where we can be globally competitive, we needed to first build the backbone of our society, which is where the resources are. So I saw that deforestation was a large issue and problem that was happening around the Philippines. So we started thinking of how we could actually do more reforestation initiatives, but giving more value and more meaning to them. Because a lot of them were always for picture taking or something. So we thought of actually doing a market-driven reforestation wherein the market would demand trees that were planted. So we started off very small with the coffee program, wherein we were selling coffee to different friends and families as part of our reforestation. Eventually, I landed into cacao because I saw that the world was growing desperately in need of chocolate. And basically, to prove that point, how many people in the audience here have eaten a bar or tasted a bar of chocolate? Everybody. Whether you're an old person, a young person, a girl, or a boy, or from wherever, you must have eaten at least one time in your life. Even the Africans now are starting to eat chocolate, that's what came out in CNN. So I felt, and it only grew in the equatorial part of the world. So the Philippines I saw was an avenue, was a place where we could actually grow the crop, use it as a reforestation initiative, but still remain competitive globally. So I started that, and here I am now, maybe 3 years down the line, and we're luckily connected with the largest chocolate manufacturer in the world. Although very small percentage, the Philippines is contributing so far at this stage. They see the Philippines as basically the one of the most how do you say, the biggest potential in most of Asia. So I hope to grow that with them and with different communities. So I guess going back to your question with regards to starting, you can start very small or large, but the most important thing is really getting your ideas out there and really challenging yourself to try to implement them.
You came with from an MBA background?
No,
Oh. Okay.
I
Which
just
is
graduated from the Ateneo.
You know,
Fast, luckily.
which is an interesting question because I think one of the questions that I saw in the social media feed had the question on, is there an educational requirement, to be a social entrepreneur?
I would
Obviously,
say,
no.
I would say a
The answer
basic,
is no.
I would say a basic educational, because social entrepreneurship is about business. So you do have advantages of understanding of it. You can learn that eventually, but basic understanding. But I think a strong eye for looking for opportunities. Sometimes you can't really explain. Some people, as they say, grow their business and they say they're lucky. But I would define luck would be opportunity meeting preparedness.
Right.
So you can have all the opportunities in the world, but without being prepared, you might just miss both. And vice versa, you can be super prepared, but you're just looking at one direction and you miss the opportunities. So I guess the combination of both is where it will actually bring an entrepreneur into actualization.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the floor that you might want to ask about the BPI Sinag Business Challenge? Anyone? There are still a lot that are actually from our social feed. So here's another one. Why are social enterprises relevant? Can social enterprises survive the economy? Maybe I should ask our chairman Jaza that question. Okay, would you like to, Danny, or say anything about that? So we see that question on the board again. What was that again? Why are
Yeah, the question is why are social enterprises
relevant? Yeah.
to the present economy? It has already been said in the video that we saw earlier that the Philippine economy has been growing, and in fact one of the fastest growing economy not only in Asia but also in the world. But the irony is that while the economy is growing, the poor, the population that poor is stagnant, meaning it's not reducing. So there's a problem between the economy that's growing and also getting the poor out of poverty. And I think that's where the main relevance of social entrepreneurship lies. It is a way of fostering the inclusion of the poor people into the mainstream economy.
Right. So it's really inclusive growth.
That's right.
Yeah. And
I would say earlier you said for this Sinag challenge, we will focus on enterprises that are for profit. And I can't agree more. No? Precisely, social enterprises have to make a profit for them to be sustainable. We are not looking to fund NGOs who play a very important role, but they're not necessarily social enterprises. We need to go beyond the situation where our efforts are funded by grant money. We have to go to a situation where our operations are sustained by revenue so that they become sustainable. No? So yes, social enterprises can and should survive ups as well as downs in the economy. And it's when we properly apply the principles of business that this will happen.
My view may be a little bit different with regards to the relevance of social enterprise. I basically think that social entrepreneurship is again about business, about making a profit to continue whatever social mission and advocacy. But I feel, at least this is my personal view, is that social entrepreneurship will become more and more irrelevant. And I say irrelevant because from a purely advocacy mentality, because of resource stress, because of consumer demands, because of people that look for social entrepreneurship, it would become more, I feel, directionally in the next 20 years, it would be more of a requirement or something that becomes more natural than it would be an advocacy. It's what the world requires. It's what people are looking for. And without that efficiency built into our evolution as mankind, then we're headed in the wrong direction.
yeah, I think that it's but natural that there's a tendency that social entrepreneurship appears to be like just an advocacy because it's new. But I totally believe what you said. I totally agree with you, and I think we're all in agreement here because for it to be sustainable, it must be profitable. So as I was saying earlier, we were chatting with this good Senator Cynthia Villar, and she was saying maybe it should be in a non-profit and profit. And I for the BPI Sinag anyway, for our business challenge, we're targeting on those businesses that are sustainable, so they should be profitable. And as I was sharing with the chairman, what we want to do is really bring that discipline of business, because even working as Ebby had shared earlier, we wanted to mount this and walk the talk by actually working with social entrepreneurs. And we wanted to even have the t-shirts done by a social entrepreneur. And we had a really good supplier, but couldn't meet our requirements as a bank because we require so many things for you to be accredited. But so, because they had missed out on a few government things, no? So obviously this is what we want to build, that discipline of being a business. And as you said, eventually it's not going to be an advocacy, it's going to be really the way to go. Profit with purpose. Is that how I look at it? Profit with purpose. So thanks. Any questions from the floor? Anybody? I think we have some runners out there. There, I see a hand waving. The light's a bit bright, so pardon me if I can't see you.
Hi, hello. I am.
Please state your name.
I'm Pengman Lavas. I have a bamboo-based social enterprise. It's called Weeboo. I'm with my partner.
Weeboo. Yes.
Weeboo. We do bamboo.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
We do
I have two questions. One is, are we still qualified? Because I just turned 36. So, but our business is still young. We just got registered last March. So is that kasi I saw another para requirement. If it's less than 3 years old, it's still qualified.
Can I answer that? My question is, do you have other partners?
Yes, I do actually. I'm the oldest, so
Yeah.
Other younger.
Do
Okay.
you have younger partners? Yeah, if that is the case, you can have the younger partners to be the proponents or the entrants in the
Okay.
competition.
So perfect.
Then you're eligible.
so perfect. So we can still be part of the competition.
That's right. Is that right, Faye?
I totally agree. I was gonna say, 36, gee whiz, just 1 year.
Yeah, just a few days. Just a few days.
Just a few days, okay.
My next question is, because I have two kids. I was in the corporate world for about 7-8 years. I was with GN Power actually, an Ayala partner company, and I was with WWF for almost 3 years. So I was with the NGO and corporate world. So parang the social enterprise angle is kind of in the middle. So and I really want to pursue it. And my question is for Rob, because I have a family. I have two kids. I have two very young kids. And I want to ask you, what kind of sacrifices have you made, for you to pursue your dream? I mean, are you constantly being nagged by your wife? Ganun yung ano. Please, I mean, inspire me, please.
That's what I keep telling her. You inspire me. So I'm off the hook there. No, actually, it's a challenge. It's a real decision point. And of course, there have been many points in my life where I did reconsider the direction. But sometimes you just keep getting pulled into things, right? Like another opportunity opens up. So like anything, it's not only about social entrepreneurship. It's about, let's say, business. And the first years are the hardest because that's where you have to put a lot of time and dedication, and things may not always work. But I guess the advantage of having that social participation or that social part is when the financial times are not as fulfilling, you still have that other thing to hold on to while you're sort of figuring out the financial side and surviving at that point. But then again, the challenge again also is once you start becoming financially successful, there's always that point wherein you sort of sometimes forget the social aspect. So I guess it's a balance. Somebody mentioned it in the audience, I think it was Rami or something, that mentioned that constant balance of checking and reevaluating both your business and why you started doing this social entrepreneurship in the first place. So I guess it's a work in progress. Yeah.
I wanted to say that your wife just had a baby.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So I'm just gonna start feeling the same pressure that you had.